They disappeared without a trace. From a quiet suburb in the US to the streets of Europe and even across continents, these 5 people vanished under shocking circumstances. Some last seen in broad daylight, others lost in mysterious shadows. Years later, their cases remain unsolved, leaving investigators baffled and families desperate. Here are 5 most shocking missing person cases still unsolved in 2025. Story 1. On a quiet September night in rural upstate New York, as the nation struggled to process an unprecedented tragedy, a woman finished her shift, said goodbye to familiar faces, and drove into the darkness. By morning, her vehicle would be found abandoned on a country road. Keys still inside, no sign of a struggle, and no explanation for where she had gone. What followed would become one of the most debated disappearances in modern American history. Michele Ann Harris was born on September 29, 1965. She was a mother of 4 and lived in Spencer, New York, with her husband, Calvin Harris, and their children. Friends described Michele as warm, social, and devoted to her family, though increasingly stressed in the years leading up to her disappearance. At the time, she was in the middle of a difficult divorce and working part-time as a waitress at a restaurant in nearby Waverly. Those close to her said she was trying to rebuild her independence, balancing motherhood, work, and complicated personal relationships. Despite the tension in her life, she remained involved with her children and continued making plans for the future. On the evening of September 11, 2001, Michele finished her shift at the restaurant around 9 p.m. She spent time in the parking lot talking with co-workers before driving to visit a man she knew in a nearby town. According to him, she left around 11 p.m., calm and without distress. The next morning, her minivan was found parked along a rural road near her home. The doors were unlocked. The keys were still inside. Personal belongings, including her phone, were left behind. Michele herself was gone. No one reported seeing her after she left that night. There were no confirmed phone calls, no CCTV footage, and no witnesses who could explain what happened after she drove away. Police launched an extensive search, though resources were limited due to the national emergency following the September 11th attacks. Searches included wooded areas, nearby water sources, and the family property. Investigators later identified small blood stains in the garage of the Harris home, though the source could not be definitively confirmed. Attention focused heavily on Michele's husband due to their ongoing divorce and reports of past conflict. He was tried multiple times for her murder, convicted twice, and later acquitted after appeals and retrials. Nobody was ever found, and no physical evidence conclusively proved a crime had occurred. Over time, multiple theories emerged, ranging from foul play to voluntary disappearance, but none were proven. Investigators acknowledged inconsistencies in the timeline and unresolved questions, while courts ultimately ruled there was insufficient evidence to determine what truly happened. As of 2025, the case remains officially unsolved. Michele's disappearance deeply fractured her family. Her children grew up without answers, and her loved ones have remained divided over what they believe happened to her. Vigils, court appearances, and years of media attention brought little closure. Some family members continue to believe justice has not been served, while others have tried to move forward, carrying unanswered questions with them. Despite decades passing, Michele's absence still weighs heavily on those who knew her. What if the key detail that explains her disappearance has been overlooked all along? And what if the truth is far more ordinary or far more tragic than anyone imagined? Story 2. In the heat of an Abidjan afternoon in April 2004, a journalist walked into a shopping center parking lot for what was supposed to be a routine meeting. The city buzzed with political tension, whispered conflicts, and uneasy silence. Within minutes, he vanished. No witnesses stepped forward, no clear trail emerged, and the place he was last seen returned to normal, as if nothing had happened at all. Guy-André Kieffer was born on May 25, 1949, in France. He later became a dual citizen of France and Canada after studying law in Montreal, where he also married and started a family. He was the father of 2 children and was known for his analytical mind and persistence. Kieffer worked for years as a financial journalist, most notably for La Tribune, before moving to West Africa. There, he focused on investigative reporting related to political corruption, financial crimes, and the cocoa trade, a powerful industry in Côte d'Ivoire. Colleagues described him as determined, outspoken, and deeply committed to uncovering financial misconduct, even when it placed him in difficult or dangerous positions. On April 16, 2004, Kieffer traveled to a shopping center parking lot in Abidjan after being told he would receive information related to an ongoing investigation. He arrived shortly after midday. According to reports, he met with an individual he knew and appeared tense. He was last seen entering the parking area. After that, all contact ceased. His phone went silent. He never returned home. No confirmed sightings followed. In the days that followed, authorities discovered his vehicle abandoned, but there were no signs of struggle, no witnesses, and no immediate explanation for his disappearance. An investigation was launched in both Côte d'Ivoire and France. Kieffer's work at the time involved allegations of corruption, money laundering, and the movement of funds connected to the cocoa industry and political figures. Several individuals were questioned, including people with high-level political connections. One man, reportedly the last known person to meet Kieffer, provided statements naming influential figures. He was later arrested and charged, but was later released. French investigators sought access to multiple witnesses, though cooperation between governments was inconsistent. Some evidence suggested Kieffer may have been targeted because of his reporting, while other theories proposed a financial dispute unrelated to journalism. No physical evidence was ever produced to confirm either scenario. Although human remains were reportedly found years later, they were never definitively confirmed as his. As of 2025, no one has been convicted, and the circumstances of his disappearance remain unresolved. Kieffer's wife, Osange, has spent years publicly appealing for answers. She has met with officials, spoken to the media, and pushed for continued investigations despite repeated setbacks. Friends and colleagues have kept his case alive through advocacy and journalism organizations. For his family, the absence of certainty has been devastating. Without proof of death or survival, they remain suspended in unanswered questions, unable to fully grieve or move on. What if the truth behind his disappearance lies in information that was never meant to be revealed? And what if the silence surrounding his case is the very reason it has never been solved? Story 3. On a cold October night in 2004, the wind howled across Piha Beach, a rugged stretch of coastline on New Zealand's west coast, known for its raw beauty and unpredictable seas. Under flickering streetlights and crashing waves, a young woman was seen walking alone, barefoot and visibly distressed. Within hours, she vanished into the darkness. What happened next would leave her family searching for answers for nearly 2 decades. Iraena Te Rama Awina. Asher was born on July 17, 1979, in New Zealand. She lived in Auckland, where she was training to become a teacher while also working part-time as a model. Friends and family described her as creative, intelligent, and warm-hearted. She had a close relationship with her loved ones and was known for her independence and thoughtful nature. At the time of her disappearance, Iraena had recently gone through the end of a long-term relationship, a change that had brought emotional strain, but nothing that alarmed those closest to her. Iraena had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and had managed her condition with medication. According to her family, she had experienced periods of difficulty in the past, but in the days leading up to her disappearance, she appeared stable and in contact with loved ones. Nothing suggested she was in immediate danger or planning to vanish. On October 10th, 2004, Iraena traveled with acquaintances to Piha, a remote coastal area west of Auckland, known for its steep cliffs, dense bushland, and powerful surf. That evening, something changed. Around 9 p.m., she placed a distressed call to New Zealand's emergency number, saying she felt unsafe and disoriented. Instead of dispatching police, authorities arranged for a taxi to pick her up. The taxi, however, was sent to the wrong location. Later that night, a local couple encountered Iraena wandering along the road. She was partially clothed, confused, and clearly distressed. Concerned for her safety, they brought her into their home, offered her food, warmth, and a place to rest. For a time, she appeared calmer. But just after 1 a.m., Iraena suddenly left the house without warning and disappeared into the night. She was seen shortly afterward near Piha Beach, walking barefoot toward the shoreline. The weather was harsh. Cold winds, darkness, and rough surf battered the coast. That moment would be the last confirmed sighting of her. A major search operation began almost immediately. Police, search and rescue teams, helicopters, and volunteers combed the coastline, nearby bush, and surrounding waters. The terrain was difficult and dangerous, but the search was extensive. Despite days of effort, nothing was found. No clothing, no personal belongings, no trace of where she had gone. Investigators later concluded that Iraena most likely entered the ocean and drowned, citing Piha's powerful rip currents and the severe weather conditions that night. The coroner supported this assessment, noting that survival in such conditions would have been unlikely. Still, questions remained. Her family struggled to understand how a call for help could result in no immediate police response. The misdirected taxi and delayed assistance became central concerns, while an inquest later acknowledged flaws in how the situation was handled. No legal responsibility was assigned. Some locals quietly questioned whether more could have been done, while others believed the sea itself had claimed her. No remains were ever recovered. For Iraena's family, the uncertainty was devastating. Her parents spoke publicly about their frustration and heartbreak, wondering how a young woman could vanish after asking for help. Her mother passed away years later without ever knowing what happened to her daughter. In 2023, Iraena's father also died, renewing attention on the long unresolved case and the emotional toll it carried. Today, Iraena Asher's disappearance remains one of New Zealand's most haunting mysteries. Though theories exist, answers do not. What remains is the memory of a young woman whose life ended without explanation and a family left with only questions. What if help had arrived just minutes earlier that night? And what if the truth of what happened at Piha still lies hidden beneath the restless sea? Story 4. High in Austria's Dachstein Mountains, where limestone peaks rise into cloud and silence stretches for miles, an elderly man walked into familiar terrain and never returned. Summer storms rolled in, helicopters circled above jagged ridgelines, and search teams combed the slopes. But the mountain gave nothing back. What began as an ordinary day in alpine isolation soon became one of Austria's most unsettling modern disappearances. Bodo Hell was born on March 15, 1943, in Salzburg, Austria. A respected writer, poet, and essayist, he studied organ music at the Mozarteum and later pursued film, philosophy, German studies, and history in Vienna. Over decades, he collaborated with prominent literary figures and earned recognition for his experimental and deeply reflective work. Despite his literary career, Hell lived a life far from convention. Each summer, he retreated to the Dachstein Mountains, where he worked as an alpine shepherd, tending sheep on the high pastures. Friends described him as physically capable, deeply familiar with the terrain, and devoted to the rhythms of mountain life. At 81, he remained active, independent, and mentally sharp. On August 11, 2024, Hell was reported missing in the Dachstein region near the Grafenberg Alm, close to the Austrian-Styrian border. He had last been seen days earlier, telling hikers he was heading out to look for cattle in the area between the Grafenberg Alm and the Heilbronner Kreuz. When he failed to return, concern grew. His absence was unusual. Hell knew the terrain well and had followed the same seasonal routine for years. Rescue services were alerted, and a large-scale search began almost immediately. Mountain rescue teams, alpine police, dogs, drones, and helicopters scoured the area. Mobile phone data and witness accounts narrowed the search to a broad zone east of the Heilbronner Kreuz, but the terrain proved treacherous. The landscape was filled with steep rock faces, dense mountain pine, sinkholes, and narrow crevices. Areas where visibility was limited and access was dangerous. Despite days of searching, no trace of Hell was found. The search operation lasted several days and involved over 60 rescuers, including air support from the Austrian armed forces. Weather conditions repeatedly disrupted efforts, forcing teams to suspend operations during thunderstorms. Authorities confirmed that Hell was experienced in alpine terrain and physically capable, making his disappearance difficult to explain. Cell phone data offered only a general search area, not a precise location. No belongings, clothing, or signs of distress were recovered. Officials stated there was no evidence of foul play. Investigators considered natural causes, disorientation, or an accidental fall in the rugged terrain. However, without physical evidence, no definitive conclusion could be reached. By mid-August, large-scale operations were officially suspended, though smaller search efforts continued intermittently. In September 2024, Bodo Hell was formally listed as a missing person. Friends and colleagues described Hell as deeply connected to the mountains, calling them both his home and his inspiration. Many struggled to accept that someone so familiar with the terrain could simply vanish. The literary community expressed concern and sorrow, noting that Hell had recently been awarded the Styrian Literature Prize and remained creatively active. His disappearance left not only a personal absence, but a cultural one. Those close to him held on to hope, while acknowledging the harsh reality of alpine conditions. As weeks passed with no discovery, uncertainty became the only constant. What if a single misstep in the mountains changed everything? And what if the Dachstein still holds answers no one has yet found? Story 5. In the early 2000s, as political tension and religious unrest intensified across South Asia, a controversial spiritual figure quietly vanished from public view. His disappearance did not occur in chaos or violence, but in silence. Nobody was found. No official confirmation followed. What remained were conflicting accounts, devoted followers, and a mystery that continues to linger decades later. Riaz Ahmed Gohar Shahi was born on November 25, 1941, in Gohar Shah, a village in present-day Pakistan. He later became known as a spiritual teacher, author, and founder of religious organizations. including Rags International, later renamed Messiah Foundation International. He authored several books on spirituality, most notably Din-e-Ilahi, which promoted inner purification, divine love, and heart-centered worship. His teachings attracted a wide following, particularly in Pakistan and later abroad. Over time, his message grew controversial, as some followers believed he fulfilled religious prophecies across Islam, Christianity, and Hinduism. Shahi lived for periods in Pakistan, the Middle East, and later the United Kingdom. By the late 1990s, his growing influence placed him under intense scrutiny from religious authorities. In 2001, while reportedly residing in London, Riaz Ahmed Gohar Shahi abruptly disappeared from public life. No official announcement was made at the time, no missing person report was filed, no confirmed sighting followed. Some reports suggested he had gone into hiding due to legal pressure. Others claimed he had fallen ill or died. However, no death certificate, burial record, or verified documentation was ever produced. His disappearance coincided with escalating legal troubles in Pakistan, where courts had convicted him in absentia on blasphemy-related charges. Following his disappearance, public appearances ceased entirely, and leadership of his organizations shifted to close associates. No formal criminal investigation was ever launched into the disappearance of Riaz Ahmed Gohar Shahi, largely because he was not officially reported missing and had already relocated outside Pakistan prior to vanishing. What is known is that by 2001, he had withdrawn completely from public life while facing serious legal pressure in Pakistan, including convictions in absentia under blasphemy laws. No confirmed death certificate, medical record, or burial documentation has ever been produced. Some media outlets later reported that he had died in either 2001 or 2003, yet these claims were never substantiated. Supporters of Shahi maintain that he deliberately disappeared, citing spiritual reasons and asserting that he entered a state of concealment rather than dying. Others believe he lived in exile under protection due to threats against his life. Skeptics argue that his disappearance may have been a strategic retreat to avoid prosecution or public backlash. Despite decades passing, no government agency has publicly confirmed his fate, and no physical evidence has surfaced to clarify whether he died, fled, or chose to vanish entirely, leaving the case suspended between belief, rumor, and unresolved fact. Shahi's disappearance divided his followers. Some accepted that he had died and even constructed a symbolic tomb in Pakistan. Others rejected this entirely, insisting he was still alive and would return. His family remained largely silent. Meanwhile, his organization split into factions, each claiming to preserve his true legacy. Legal disputes, public controversy, and accusations of misinformation followed. For many supporters, the lack of closure became a defining feature of their belief system, one rooted not in evidence, but faith. What if his disappearance was neither death nor escape, but a deliberate vanishing never meant to be explained? And what if the truth was lost the moment certainty became impossible within the shadows of history and belief? Time moves forward, but these stories remain frozen in unanswered moments. Families wait, questions linger, and silence fills the spaces where answers should be, whether lost to circumstance or something more unknown. These cases remind us how fragile certainty can be and how deeply absence can echo. This is Vanished Stories, where the missing are never forgotten,